Hello guys, welcome to EduDextro. I am Mohammad Irfan. In today's video, we are going to do NCERT line by line for the class 11 chapter Biological Classification. So without any delay, let's go into the academics. Since the dawn of civilization, there have been many attempts to classify living organisms. It was done instinctively, not using any criteria which was scientific, but it was based on a criteria based on how we are going to use the organisms for our own use. And this can be in the form of shelter, in the form of food, and also in the form of clothing. So, based on that, we were classifying organisms without any scientific grounds. The first attempt for a scientific classification was done by Aristotle. He used simple morphological characters. Now, what means morphological characters? Morphological characters means the external appearances, how an organism looks from the external morphology. He classified plants into trees, shrubs, and herbs. Trees are tallest, shrubs are of intermediate height, and herbs are the shortest. He also divided animals based on whether they had red blood or they did not. Now, mammals, birds have red blood, while cockroach is having white blood called hemolymph, and some crabs are having blue blood. In Linnaeus' time, a two kingdom classification with Plantae and Animalia was developed that included all the plants and animals respectively, but this system also had drawbacks. It did not distinguish between the eukaryotes and prokaryotes, unicellular and multicellular organisms, and also it did not distinguish between the photosynthetic green algae and non photosynthetic fungi. So, even Linnaeus classification had so many drawbacks. Classification of organisms into plants and animals was easily done and was easy to understand, but there were a large number of organisms which did not fall into either category, and hence the two kingdom classification also was found to be inadequate. Besides gross morphology, a need was also felt for including other characteristics like cell structure, nature of the wall, mode of nutrition, habitat, methods of reproduction, evolutionary relationships. So the scientists were like, morphology is not just the basis of classification, there are even more scientific terms which need to be included within classification. Classification systems for the living organisms have hence undergone several changes over the time. Though the plant and animal kingdoms have been a constant under all different systems, the understanding of what groups or organisms be included under these kingdoms have been changing. Plants and animals are constant, the organisms are constant, but how we understand the classification mechanism is being constantly changing. The number and nature of other kingdoms have also been understood differently by different scientists over the time. So, from Aristotle towards Linnaeus, there has been certain changes in the number of kingdoms. R.H. Whitaker in 1969 proposed a five kingdom classification. From two kingdom now it has become five kingdom. This classification included Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. So apart from Plantae and Animalia, now we have Monera, Protista, and fungi. The main criteria for classification used by him included cell structure, body organization, mode of nutrition, reproduction, and phylogenetic relationships. Now, it was not just based on morphology, but it was also based on other characteristics which were more scientific. Hence, now we are following the five kingdom classification by R.H. Whitaker. The three domain system has also been proposed that divides the kingdom Monera itself into two domains, leaving the remaining eukaryotic kingdoms in the third domain and thereby a sixth kingdom classification. So there is another classification which is even more advanced than the five kingdom classification. It is the three domain system which divides organisms into six kingdoms. Now let us look at this five kingdom classification to understand the issues and consideration that influence the classification system. Earlier, the classification system included bacteria, blue-green algae, fungi, mosses, ferns, gymnosperms, and the angiosperms under plants. So all these organisms came under plants. Why they came under plants? The character that unified this whole kingdom was that all these organisms included had a cell wall in their cells. So all these organisms had cell walls, therefore they came under Plantae. But this placed together groups which widely differed. So just because these organisms had cell wall in common doesn't mean that they are similar. It placed a lot of organisms which widely differed in other characteristics. It brought together the prokaryotic bacteria and the blue-green algae with other groups which were eukaryotic. So this is the first drawback. It also grouped the unicellular organisms and the multicellular ones. For example, the Chlamydomonas and the Spirogyra were placed together under algae. The classification also did not differentiate between the heterotrophic group, which is fungi, and the autotrophic green plants. So a lot of differing organisms were also put together. Why they were put together? The thing is that fungi had chitin and green plants had a cellulosic cell wall, yet they were placed together. So many drawbacks within the previous classification system. When such characteristics were considered, the fungi were placed in a separate kingdom called Kingdom Fungi. All the prokaryotic organisms were now grouped under Kingdom Monera. So, Kingdom Monera had all the prokaryotic organisms, and the unicellular eukaryotes were placed in Kingdom Protista. Now, all the confusions are clear. Kingdom Protista has brought together Chlamydomonas, Chlorella, which were earlier placed in algae within the plants, and it also brought together Paramecium and Amoeba, which were earlier placed in the animal kingdom because they were lacking the cell wall. So previously they were placed under kingdom Animalia just because they lacked cell wall, but due to other characteristics now they have come to kingdom Protista. It has put together organisms which in earlier classification were placed in different kingdoms. This happened because the criteria for classification has changed, right? Now we are not just looking at cell wall or absence of cell wall, but we are looking at various other characteristics. So this kind of changes will take place in the future as well, depending on the improvement in our understanding of characteristics and evolutionary relationships. So over time, an attempt has been made to evolve a classification system which reflects not only the morphological characters, but it also reflects the physiological, reproductive similarities, but also it takes care of phylogenetic relationships. Now, what is phylogenetic relationships? Phylogenetic basically means evolutionary relationships. So we are classifying organisms based on all these characters and not just morphological characters. In this chapter, we'll be studying about Monera, Protista, fungi of the Whittaker system, and we'll have a separate chapter called Plant Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, which is called Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. Okay, so this is table 2.1, which is basically the characteristics of the five kingdom, and it's basically summarizing the entire five kingdom classification. So first we're talking about cell type, cell wall, nuclear membrane, body organization, and mode of nutrition. So in this one, the odd one is Monera, which is prokaryotic, right? Monera is having prokaryotic, while others all are having eukaryotic cell type. So question can be asked from these odd guys from this table. Now talking about cell wall, this is also another important question can be asked from this row of the table. Cell wall of Monera is non-cellulosic, having polysaccharides and amino acids, and cell wall is absent in Animalia, and then cell wall is made of cellulose in Plantae. This is very common. Cell wall is made up of chitin. Yes, this is very common, and it is in fact very common throughout the entire NCRT, so there won't be any need for memorizing that cell wall of fungi is made up of chitin. In Protista, it is present in some. Okay, so over here the important cell walls are Monera fungi, right? Chitin is there, and in Monera it is polysaccharide and amino acids. Talking about nuclear membrane, it is absent only in Monera, while it is present in all the other cells. Why is it absent in Monera? Because Monera is prokaryotic. Prokaryotes lack a nuclear membrane, right? Now, body organization. If you see from left to right, the organization is increasing. That is from cellular, then multicellular in fungi, right? And it's becoming tissue or organ, and then tissue, organ, or organ system in Animalia. So this is also easy. Cellular organization is a very common example. You can relate this point with very common examples in the NCRT or in real life that Monera and Protista have a cellular body organization. Next, we have mode of nutrition. This is also very important. Questions are asked from this row of the table as well. So, autotrophic mode of nutrition, which includes both chemosynthetic and photosynthetic, and even heterotrophic, which is basically saprophytic or parasitic. So, chemosynthetic mode of nutrition is seen in Monera. This is important. Chemosynthetic mode of nutrition, which is basically synthesizing food from chemical inputs, and that is unique to Monerans. Now, autotrophic and heterotrophic is seen in Protista. In fungi, you see the saprophytic mode of nutrition, which is basically a heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In Plantae, as we know, it is autotrophic. And in Animalia, you get to see holozoic mode of nutrition. So, question can be asked from this also: which organism or which kingdom shows holozoic mode of nutrition? Okay. So, let's start with Kingdom Monera. Bacteria are the sole members of the kingdom Monera. So over here, the word sole members is very important. Bacteria are the sole members of the kingdom Monera. Means entire kingdom Monera consists of bacteria only. They are the most abundant microorganisms. Yes, this we know, very common. And bacteria occur almost everywhere. Hundreds of bacteria are present in a handful of soil. They also live in extreme habitats such as hot springs, deserts, snow, and even deep oceans where very few of the other life forms can survive. Even in hot springs, they can survive where the temperature is really high. Many of them live in or on other organisms as parasites as well. Bacteria are grouped under four categories based on their shape. The spherical ones are called coccus, right? If the bacteria is in a spherical shape, it is called coccus and the plural is called cocci. The rod shaped are called bacillus, the plural being bacilli, and the comma shaped called vibrium, the plural being vibrio. And the spiral shaped is called spirillum, which is plural is spirilla. So this is cocci, which is spherical, this is bacillus, which is rod shaped, this is spirillum, and this is vibrio. Okay. Under kingdom Monera, we have Archaebacteria. Now, what is Archaebacteria? These bacteria are special because they live in the harshest habitats such as extreme salty areas, hot springs, and marshy areas. Salty areas is halophiles, hot springs is called thermoacidophiles, and marshy areas are methanogens. So these bacteria can survive harsh conditions. That's why they are called archaebacteria. Archaebacteria differ from other bacteria because they have a different cell wall structure, and this feature is responsible for their survival in the extreme conditions. Due to differences in their cell wall, it makes them unique that they can survive even the harshest conditions. The methanogens are present in the gut of several ruminant animals such as cows and buffaloes, and they are responsible for producing the methane or biogas from the dung of these animals. Okay. The next type of bacteria within kingdom Monila is called eubacteria. Eubacteria, the word eu means true. The word eu means true. Eukaryotes. So like that, eu means eubacteria. Eubacteria means true bacteria. They are characterized by the presence of a rigid cell wall. Okay, they have a rigid cell wall, but rigid cell wall is not archaebacteria. This is different. This is rigid cell wall is eubacteria, and if they are motile, they'll have a flagellum, right? If they are motile, they will have a flagellum. And the cyanobacteria, which is also called the blue-green algae, have chlorophyll A, and this makes it similar to green plants. They have chlorophyll A, and hence they are called photosynthetic autotrophs. The cyanobacteria are unicellular, colonial, or filamentous, and they can also be freshwater or marine, or they can also be terrestrial algae. So there are a lot of diversity within cyanobacteria itself. The colonies are generally surrounded by a gelatinous sheath. They often form blooms in polluted water bodies, and some of these can fix nitrogen due to presence of specialized cells called heterocysts. Now, example of these nitrogen fixing bacteria are Nostoc and Anabina. Chemosynthetic autotrophic bacteria oxidize various inorganic substances such as nitrates, nitrites, and ammonia, and they use the released energy for ATP production. So these are chemosynthetic bacteria. They play a great role in recycling the nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, and even sulfur. Now, heterotrophic bacteria are the most abundant forms in the nature. They are the majority of them are important decomposers, and many of them have a significant impact on human affairs. Now, they are helpful in making curd from milk and production of antibiotics, and they also fix nitrogen in legume roots. So heterotrophic bacteria are more common, right, and they are more indulgent in human life. Now over here, this is the blue-green algae, Nostoc, and if you see, you can see this blue color coating, and this is called the mucilaginous sheath. And these specialized cells called heterocysts facilitates them to fix nitrogen. Okay, let's continue heterotrophic bacteria. Some of these heterotrophic bacteria are pathogens, and they cause damage to human beings, crops, farm animals, and pets. Now, the common human diseases, as we know, cholera, tetanus, typhoid, and yes, citrus canker. Citrus canker. What is citrus canker? Citrus canker is basically a mosaic-like structure being forming on the citrus fruits like lemon and oranges. You will be seeing a mosaic-like structure on their outer covering. So that is called citrus canker, and that is caused by these heterotrophic bacteria, which are pathogens. Bacteria reproduce mainly by fission, and sometimes under unfavorable conditions they'll form spores. Now this is very common. Under unfavorable conditions, most of these lower organisms, they form spores, right? And they also reproduce by a sort of sexual reproduction by adopting a primitive type of DNA transfer. So between two bacteria, they'll be basically transferring the DNA from one bacterium to another. So this diagram is showing the transfer of DNA. This is the DNA over here, and over here also we can see the DNA. So these get transferred at this region. Okay. The mycoplasma are organisms which lack a cell wall, and yet they belong to kingdom Monera. This is important. They belong to kingdom Monera, and they are under Eubacteria. Now they are the smallest living cells known, and they can survive even without oxygen. And many mycoplasmas are pathogenic to animals and plants. Okay. Alright guys, thank you for watching this video. If you do like this video, please do subscribe my channel. Please do share this video to anyone you need. And if you do like this video, please press the like button. And if you did not like this video, please do also press the dislike button. Please do comment about this video, and you can put all your suggestions in the comment section below. Thank you.